What's going on, y'all? KM Best here, your favorite 96th ranked Marvel snapper, and I have a very important question for you. Have you heard about the bird? Well, everybody knows that the bird is the word. Marvel Snap's newest card is Mockingbird, a 5-cost, 9-power unit that decreases itself in cost for each card you have on the battlefield that did not start in your deck. Naturally, the second she was released, everyone just started jamming her in Thanos, and spoiler alert, we are going to talk about that a little bit as well. It is definitely one of the best homes for this card. However, there are more than just Thanos decks that you can play with this card, even at a high level of success. I played a ton of the Thanos list, so we are going to talk about that, but BigBaby hit rank 1 with a Zoo Mockingbird deck, and Tanjo was climbing with a Loki Mockingbird deck, also nearly hit rank 1, I believe. So these are two of the absolute best players in the game, trading off the number 1 spot between them. Both of them are playing Mockingbird, and neither of them are playing Thanos. I'm making this video, yes, we're going to cover Thanos, but I also want you to know that this is not only a Thanos card. She is showing up in other places. It's not just buy this and play it with your other 6 Series 5 cards in your average Thanos deck. There is a little bit more to her than that. So with that said, let's jump into the deck lists. Because I am a shameless whore for views, we're going to start with the weirdest of these decks and the one that hit rank 1 in the hands of BigBaby. This is a Zoo deck. It is, as you know, very appealing to someone like me who is extremely high on Zoo copium a lot of the time. However, this deck actually hitting rank 1 in the hands of BigBaby is actually proof that this kind of strategy can succeed. Is it the best option? Maybe, maybe not. You'll notice that there's an Alioth here as a surprise card looking to get ahead very early. Cards like Shauna, Squirrel Girl, and of course Mockingbird push you in that direction. But fundamentally, this deck sort of fills the role of like quasi-interactive, tech card heavy, point heavy, mid-range deck. And one other thing you'll notice is there is absolutely no Kyera in here. This deck is saying, you know what, it's fine. A, Alioth will protect us from that some of the time, and B, not enough people are running it to actually prevent it from being a useful card in the deck. We are not in a world where people are playing a ton of Killmongers because the dominant mode of Mockingbird deck is Thanos, and Killmonger is kind of fine, if not, you know, it's fine there. It's not going to, like, blow their socks off, and they can usually play the bird down before the Killmonger comes down, so it's like, what's really the point? What this deck is attempting to do is similar to what a Sarah deck is attempting to do, or really what any mid-range deck is attempting to do, and it is play a lot of points, use some interaction, and get ahead, slam the door with an Alioth, win the game, however you want to approach that. Now, I know some people are going to say, do I have to play Alioth? And you don't. If you don't want to play Alioth in here, consider that card your tech card slot. Alioth is filling a tech role, not a core role in this deck. You can play whatever tech card you choose. I personally would suggest Shang-Chi if you're going to take Alioth out of the deck. Now, one other thing you're going to notice, and you're going to notice this across a lot of these decks, is there is a Mobius and Mobius in here. Mobius is obviously good into like the variety of Loki stuff that is typically good into mid-range decks like this, but also just good into, you know, the card Mockingbird. So you kind of have to run him a lot of the time. This is a really interesting deck. I definitely think it is something that makes me excited. I mean, like, Zoo hit rank 1. Literally, Zoo hit rank 1. I'm extremely happy to say those words. However, I do think, you know, it's possible this is not the absolute best use of Mockingbird, but the fact that she's good enough to make Zoo hit rank 1 is some of the coolest things that, like, that's just the coolest thing that's ever happened in Marvel Snap. I'm sorry, it rocks. Shout out BigBaby. Thank you for doing this. Next up is my build of the Thanos archetype with Mockingbird in it, and I think we're going to see some sort of fluctuations happening with this build and generally how Thanos is built in the near future. I've seen people playing Professor X. I've seen people going for Scar, so you can play Scar and Mockingbird. I've seen a lot of variation around pretty much the same theme, and that theme, of course, is Mockingbird is super messed up in Thanos. I want to be super clear. Mockingbird is the card that wins you Thanos mirrors. This card accelerates you so far beyond what your opponents are capable of matching that when you have your good Thanos draws, Mind Stone into a bunch of other stones, they are basically exponentially multiplied because of Mockingbird being good with your best draws. Mockingbird is a force multiplier on what your deck was already doing. She makes you more likely to snap on your Mind Stones. She is an absolute beast of a card in this deck, very often going to be 2 or less, extremely powerful, extremely forceful, extremely dangerous card. I've played a fair few 0-cost Mockingbirds in this shell. Now, the one sort of variant spot that you'll notice is, are you leaning into Professor X and Eliath, or are you leaning into, are you a Shang deck? Are you an Eliath deck? Are you a Professor X deck? Are you a Scar deck? These last few spots are really what's still up for debate in the Thanos lists right now. I personally think that right now, Psylocke is actually more useful than she ever has been. The new Time Stone, while it isn't as, overpowered in terms of how you plan the way it used to be, is a card you can now just work into your curve and see if it helps you. And of course, you have Mobius and Mobius in here because A, Thanos gets kind of creamed by Loki, especially when it builds like this, and B, your opposing Mockingbirds need to cost more. This is another consideration that you're going to have to make when you play a Mockingbird deck is there are going to be people playing Mobius, and sometimes that means you can't be greedy with the bird. You have to play her for 2 after you play 3 stones so that you don't get Mobius out of being able to play her. That kind of stuff is important to understanding how this bird deck is meant to work. Finally, Tanjo, one of the 5 best Marvel Snap players on the planet, check the rankings, it's true, showed up in my chat and said, hey, KM, why aren't you playing Kitty Elsa Loki? And I was like, okay, if you tell me it's good, I will listen to you. I respect you as a player. I played it. I did not have a lot of success with it, but he was very positive with it. And so I'm willing to chalk that up to maybe I'm just worse. Maybe I was having a bad day. I'm not really sure. But what we do know is that this deck has pushed one of the very best players in the game up higher. This is a Kitty Elsa Loki deck, and I will say I'm not 100% sold on the Kitty Elsa stuff. It's honestly is better than it used to be, though. I will say this is one of the few decks I've played where Elsa is actually a buff compared to what she was previously. This is legitimately better as a core than it was, and I think there is something to be said for that. However, I did find that this deck was very reliant on Loki, and actually is not as good of a Mockingbird deck as you might think it is. It's a great Mockingbird deck unless you draw Mockingbird before you Loki, in which case you just got rid of your Mockingbird. However, she is a phenomenal top deck after you Loki, and as a 5/9 is honestly not all that shabby generally. The real issue I found was I'm not sure if the Kitty plan was pulling enough weight in enough matchups. There's a lot of decks that are going extremely tall right now, and they're doing so in ways that you can't really account for. Decks like Phoenix Force and Hela just kind of go over the top of your little Elsa, twiddling your thumbs kind of thing, and decks like Thanos can too, except if you get the card Loki. This deck really did feel reliant on Loki, but of course, that's a fine thing to be when so much of the metagame is dedicated to Thanos and so many of the Thanos decks are a little bit less good into Loki. Playing the card Loki is a good thing to do. However, the notable downside to this is because of all the Mockingbird, there's a lot of Mobius, and that means that this deck is sort of priced into playing a card like Rogue just to make sure that it can flip that on its head. This is not overwhelmingly powerful. It's definitely a finesse deck, a deck that is going to require a lot of high IQ plays, a lot of interesting situations, and a lot of good reads, but it is pretty damn good, and Mockingbird was pretty good in it. All right, y'all, thank you so much for checking out this video on Mockingbird. I will have some gameplay on the back end of the Thanos one, which, full disclosure, was actually my best Mockingbird list, at least in my hands. The Thanos one was by far the best. However, I do want to shout out BigBaby and Tanjo, who contributed their lists to this video, maybe perhaps inadvertently, but that's what happens when you share a list with me. You know the risks. So if you picked up Mockingbird, let me know what your favorite Mockingbird deck is currently. As of day one, I would say she's a pretty key part of Thanos, but I think a lot of people are treating her as a more broken card than she is. She's good, and Thanos is good, but I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that this card immediately has to get nerfed or things of that nature. We'll need a little bit more time to figure that out. I will say she's probably worth picking up, but there is another extremely strong card coming out in only a few weeks, and that is War Machine. And frankly, I think that the Professor X builds of the Thanos lists might be on borrowed time when War Machine actually does drop. I'm interested to see how that affects the meta. Luckily for me, my preferred build of Thanos is already cutting Professor X, so, hey, we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been KM Best. You've been phenomenal. I will see you in the next one. Another Thanos, huh? Another Thanos, huh? Well, I have a Mind Stone. That's really good. We have a Time Stone. I think I'm comfortable with that. Yo, an extra Space Stone? That's kind of nice. I missed the old Time Stone. Dude, that Mockingbird just one turn late. Brutal. The M Bird just a single turn late. That's pain, baby. That's horrifying. What is he snapping about? I'm horrified by this. What's going on? What's he snapping about here? Is it Thanos left something else other lane? We blob mid, how do we lose? I'm trying to figure that out myself. Scar. It's Scar. It's Scar plus Shang-Chi. That is exactly what that shit was, dude. That is exactly what that shit was. Without question, that is what that shit was. Not a fucking chance in hell. Although, if I'm being real, if that was my read, the Alliance should have always gone left. Thing to do, but I think that's objectively correct. I totally understand. Right? It's because I'm right. Because I'm factually, factual, 100% correct about this. Yeah, these are actual all facts. Every bit of what I just said, it's facts. Clever. No. Okay. That was about to be like just some horrifying shit, not gonna lie. I was about to lose my goddamn mind. Lose my little mind. So we can go like ba-boom, ba-boom. We want to. Or we can go ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And like this, and like this, and like this, and like this, and like that. Tiebreaker and should be a tiebreaker win. Okay. Should be a tiebreaker win. All right. I'm debating between Eliath and Profex as my 12th card. Can you explain your reasoning? I prefer the one that costs 6 currently. Hmm. That's really honestly the extent of it. Is I like the one that costs 6. Going off curve for the prof is very off. I don't know what's happening. All right. They need Patriot Mystique to win here. Solid, 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 solid. The fuck is that? Ah! Fucking jump scared, dude. Holy shit. I just got jump scared. All right, I'm gonna play it though. Let's go. About to get fucking Mockingbird dropped on my head. I hate it. I hate it. Whoa. Hello. Actually not getting Mockingbird dropped on my head? That's crazy. No! I needed that. Fuck. Where's the real one? Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Cards reveal first. When you are not winning the game, your cards reveal second. Actually, that's actually pretty much it. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of the extent of it. How did Loki feel? It was like mid. How I would describe it. Boy. Boy. Oh, hello. Goodbye, I suppose. All right. I'll take that. Why is Subterranea location? Great question. It's the shittiest thing on earth. So the only actual card they discarded was fucking. Wait. What if I just blob my entire deck? Cool. Now I just blob my whole deck. Is 33 a lot? We reverted the blob nerf, chat. Mockingbird is a good ass card. When the bird is free, things go well for me. We're both Thanos. I am real fucking scared of this situation if they have like one of the good stones, because my stone is really bad into this. Okay, they don't seem to have one of the good stones, but this is very much like a can we draw? I'll take it. The kind of stuff that actually matters. We need a stone to throw in the fucking altar of death more than we need anything we've ever needed in our entire lives. This is desperate. Oh, we're fucked. Oh, we're so fucked. They got a stone first. Our stones are bad. Their stones are good. We're fucked. Okay. We're boned. There's an outside chance we can figure this out, but I doubt it. Because once they start rolling downhill, things get very unpleasant very fast. If I go Space Stone Psylocke in the left lane, I will have an additional 5. I can play Vision Cull next turn. I think I'm going to do that. We just go for Vision Cull. Oh, I see. Unpleasant. Okay, so what are the permutations here? We can move like Jeff over here, play Eliath in either lane. I guess we just cookie it up and we see where we're supposed to go. We'll just cookie it up and sit here and think. Got him.